The Sixers, nobody should want to be your guy.
No, no one.
The Sixers were swept out of the playoffs yesterday, which means it is time for our friend Richard Jefferson, who is indeed extremely qualified for this job, to serve up some blame pie. So, Richard, who is the most to blame for the Sixers' first-round exit?
It is 50% front office. 50% front office. Love Elton Brand. Hate to say he's my guy, but that is my guy. But some of the moves, and he inherited a little bit of a mess and some of the things that they had done before, but bringing in Al Horford, I know the Jimmy Butler thing, they weren't going to be able to bring him back, right? So that
was a choice.
I think they
weren't going to bring him and Tobias Harris.
And Tobias Harris
they
back.
decided to stay with Tobias.
I think Jimmy was going to be on his way someplace else. Let's just put it that way. And ultimately, that Al Horford move did not work. They thought that they could have two bigs that would open up the floor, that could shoot, that would allow Ben Simmons to do it. It didn't work out. And so you start to see this, and you're like, there's been injuries, there's been so much stuff, but the front office, if you're not making the right picks and the right plays, and we know about what they did with Markelle Fultz, could have had Jason Tatum, actually gave away stuff, right? And so, to me, they've just made too many mistakes, and you start to see that this team is not well put together.
I'm going to agree with Richard. When I look at this team, and I think we've been talking about them for the last 3 years with Embiid and Simmons, I think it's came to life now that Embiid does not really fit this sort of new era of basketball in terms of you running your offense through him. So hopefully they can see that. I think in terms of Ben Simmons is on the court this series, I don't think that they get swept. I think that this team can rally around a player like Ben Simmons when I don't see them rallying around Embiid style.
Is Ben Simmons' health in your blame pie, or who else is next?
That's it. 25% the health of the stars. It's hard to really see what a team is capable of doing if their best players aren't healthy. Could you imagine if we took AD off the Lakers right now? If you take a team's second best player off a team, it's going to look completely different, especially with the matchup that they had. But to me, I just look at Ben Simmons, and he's had the foot injury, he had the back injury, now he had the knee injury. We know about Joel Embiid's history of injury. So it's just like right now, if your guys aren't on the floor, you can't give the best product. Not very good continuity. There's just too many issues if your best players can't stay healthy.
Yeah, so you trade them both?
No, I just think...
We'll get to that in a minute. I want to know who's in the last quarter of blame pie, and then I'm going to ask you for what to do next. So give me your last quarter, and then we're going to move. Scottie, you're going to have the floor after this.
I'm going to say Brett Brown is the last piece. Now, he wasn't given a whole lot to work with as far as building a smooth team. But ultimately, when you look at their road record, they were one of the best teams in the NBA at home and one of the worst teams in the NBA on the road. That's just a lack of consistency. And this is a veteran team. This is a team with talented guys that should be able to at least play 500 on the road. They were struggling to win any games on the road. And so that doesn't surprise me that, the way they're playing right now, or the way they just played, this was kind of like a neutral court that they weren't going to play well in this bubble come crunch time.
All right, so Scottie, now I want to get to it. You have options, right? Fire Brett Brown and Elton Brand. Just get rid of Elton Brand, make some sort of trade that's either trading away Joel, Ben. You have everything in front of you. What would you do if you were running this team, or if you own this team?
Well, I think you make it pretty simple. I think you brought in Al Horford. You paid him a lot of money. Let's start him.
Okay.
Obviously, that would take moving Embiid on. But I think for you to be a part of what basketball is doing today, playing small ball, playing with a guy like Ben Simmons as your big, a guy like Al Horford who's very versatile, now you're putting yourself in a position to compete. Every night that this team goes out and they're putting Embiid in awkward situations, putting pressure on your defense. You got a 7-footer out there on the floor. It puts a lot of pressure on you to be able to win when your defense is vulnerable night in and night out because your bigs can't play pick and roll. And that's where teams target them at.
And I just want to stress, you're not saying Al Horford is a better individual player than Joel Embiid. You're just saying he's a better fit next to Ben Simmons.
I think he's a better fit for Ben Simmons, but I also think he's a great piece for them to get better. That's what I really see. It has to be him or Ben Simmons. I think you get rid of Embiid.
Yeah, no, it's tough because when you look at these contracts, Al Horford's contract's going to be tough to move. Tobias Harris's contract's going to be tough to move. So you're really looking at Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons that you can get the most value. You can get picks. You can probably get an all-star for one of those guys. And so, I personally would keep Joel Embiid and then try, because he's such a unique player, and then build, maybe get a point guard, maybe
would
get
you
something.
Trade Ben?
I would trade Ben. I would trade Ben. I don't think there's any right answer because neither of them can stay on the court for 75 games. So that makes it more difficult. But I would trade Ben and try and get pieces around Joel Embiid, just because it's harder to find a Joel Embiid than it is to find a Ben Simmons.
Well,
Ben Simmons is unique.
I think in today's game, you don't need a Embiid.
I know you don't. I know.
You want you some Ben Simmons.
I agree. I can see that part too.
But here's what's complicated. Going either way, and that is a gamble, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And here's the other thing. I want you guys to look at these numbers. So 2 years ago, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, they played on the court just fine.
Yeah.
2 years ago, they were plus 15 in the minutes they played together. Last year, that got cut in half. This is all from a Tim Bontemp story today. And he noted all these numbers, and he said that got cut in half last year. Then, this year, it's half a point. When they play together on the court, they're half a point advantage per 100 possessions. And Tim's point was, what has changed? It's not that the two players have changed. They're the same. It's not that Brett Brown has changed. The coach is the same. It's the players around them that have changed. The front office made some significant moves, taking shooters away from them.
That's why they got
Butler
their biggest piece.
Right?
50% to the front office.
I would just say, and by the way, I think Elton Brand is one of the most well-liked guys around the league. But you look at the track record, and if you are going to do something as big as trading away Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid, I think you want to take a deep breath and really think about who is the person to do that and whether you actually need to do it at all, because those numbers are pretty striking. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.